Hello everyone, myself Nagarjun. I am from MSRT. I am presenting a seminar video on mobile cloning and force pairing. These are the two fraudulent methods used for mobile hacking. Mobile plays a very important role in our life. We can't even imagine without mobile, not for even single day. But we almost forget how vulnerable our mobile devices are to such kinds of attacks. In this presentation, I am going to explain briefly such kinds of attacks and also how to keep our mobile safe from these kinds of attacks and also measures to prevent them. But first, to understand these two methods, first let me play a small video clip which depicts the importance of mobile phones in our daily life in today's world. My main aim through this presentation is to create awareness against many fraudulent methods that are used to hack phones and measures to prevent them. What is cell phone cloning? Cell phone cloning is copying the identity of one mobile phone into another. Usually this is done for the purpose of making fraudulent telephone calls. But the bills of the cloned mobile usually goes to the legitimate subscriber. The cloner is also effectively able to make anonymous calls, send anonymous messages, etc. Cloning is the process of taking the programmed information that is stored on legitimate phone and illegally programming into another cell phone. The result is that the cloned phone can make and receive call while the charges goes to the legitimate subscriber. The problem with this is that the network providers cannot differentiate between the legitimate subscriber and the cloned subscriber. And to understand mobile cloning, we need to be familiar with some of the following terms. The first one is the electronic serial number. It is unique to every mobile phone. and it is transmitted to the cell site and is used in conjunction with the NAM to verify that you are a legitimate user of the cellular system. Next is IMIN. This is the mobile identification number. It is just the cell phone number we use. AMPS and NAMPS are the cellular system used. AMPS was used before in the United States. This was analog signals using 30 kHz wide channel. AMPS was later enhanced to NAMPS, narrowband advanced mobile phone service, a version of AMPS that uses 10 kHz, which triples the cellular capacity. GSM. GSM is a digital mobile telephone system that is widely used in Europe and other parts of the world. GSM uses a variation of time division multiplexing and is the most widely used of the three digital wireless telephone technologies, TDMA, GSM and CDMA. GSM digitizes and comprises data and then sends it down a channel with two other streams of user data, each in its own time slot. It operates at either 900 MHz or 1800 MHz frequency. CDMA is another type of mobile system used for mobile communication. CDMA stands for code division multiple access. In this method, our voice is digitized and divided into packets, and each packet is tagged with code. And these coded packets are then mixed with all other packets in the network, in the local CDMA network, as they are routed towards their destination. The receiving system accepts the packets only with the codes destined for it. Mobile cloning. How the mobile cloning is done? Let's see that. Each phone has an electronic serial number and the MIN, as we studied before. And each phone, when we call or send SMS, both these ESN and MIN pairs are transmitted, and these pairs are used to identify a legitimate subscriber. These were, however, sent in the clear, so anyone with suitable scanner could receive them, and when they scan this ESN and MIN pair, they could program into another phone and thus clone the cell. Any call made on the cloned cell phone, the bills goes to the legitimate subscriber and the cloned user freely enjoys the services. And these also used to obtain the contacts and make other fraudulent scams. And let's see how intruders clone cell phones. Cloning involves modifying or replacing the EEPROM in the phone with new chip, which would allow you to configure an ESN via software. You would also have to change the MIN. When you had successfully changed the ESN-MIN pair, your phone was an effective clone of the other phone. Cloning required access to ESN and MIN pairs. ESN-MIN pairs were discovered in several ways: sniffing the cellular phone, trashing cellular companies or cellular resellers, hacking cellular companies. Cloning still works under the AMPS and NAMPS system but has fallen in popularity as older clone-able phones are more difficult to find and newer phones have not been successfully able to clone. Cloning is successfully demonstrated under GSM, but the process is not easy and it currently remains the realm of serious hobbyists and researchers. And this is the diagram of how cell phone cloning is done. Now let's get familiar with the methods to detect mobile phone cloning. The first one is called the duplicate detection. In this, the network sees the same phone in several places at the same time. Reactions including shutting them all off so that the real customer will contact the operator because he lost the service he is paying for, or tearing down connections so that the cloned user will switch to another clone but the real user will contact the operator. Velocity trap. The mobile phone seems to be moving at impossible or mostly unlikely speeds. For example, if a call is first made in the Helsinki and 5 minutes later another call is made, but this time in another city, there must be two phones with the same identity on the network. And this is one of the most difficult for the cloners to clone. And this method usually prevents cloning. PIN codes. This is one of the most useful method to detect mobile phone cloning. Prior to placing a call, the caller unlocks the phone by entering a PIN code and then calls as usual. After the call has been completed, the user locks the phone by entering the PIN code again. Operators may share PIN information to enable safer roaming. And by using these PIN codes, we can detect cell phone cloning. so that when the user logs, the PIN information goes to the subscriber and the network providers can identify between the clone and legitimate subscriber. And how to find out that mobile phone has been cloned? This is one of the common methods that we can find out that whether our phone has been cloned or not. We can follow these steps and in our daily life, and we can prevent cloning. First one is frequent wrong number phone calls to your phone or hangups. These usually happen when our phone is hacked or cloned. Difficulty in placing outgoing calls. And usually when our phone is cloned, the cloned user will restrict some of the permissions, and thus our phone is unable to operate under normal conditions. Difficulty in retrieving voice messages. Due to overload in the network, we were not also able, data traffic also gets affected. Incoming calls constantly receive busy signal or wrong numbers. This happens because when two phones with same identity is available in the network, and the cloned user, if is constantly using the cloned phone, so that our legitimate subscriber is unable to receive calls or make calls. And also the unusual calls appearing on your phone bills. This is the last resort that we can use to find out whether our phone has been cloned or not. Usually the call statement we get from our network provider, we can go through it thoroughly and we can find out which are the calls made and were the legitimate calls made from our phone. If we found something unusual, we can contact the network operator and ask for solutions, or we can be careful by protecting the cloning by installing some antivirus and such softwares, etc. How to prevent mobile phone cloning? And this is the most important part of this presentation. How to prevent our mobile phone from data theft. Uniquely identify some mobile unit when within a wireless carrier's network. The MIN often can be dialed from other wireless or wireline networks. The number differs from the electronic serial number, which is the unit number assigned by a phone manufacturer. MINs and ESNs can be checked electronically to help prevent fraud. Mobile should be never be trusted for communicating or storing confidential information, because since we know that our mobile phone is vulnerable to such attacks, we must never store very confidential information in our mobile phone. Always we must set a PIN that's required before a phone can be used. And usually nowadays many people use PIN codes or pattern lock, such types of securities. By installing such things or doing such things, we can prevent mobile cloning to a major extent. And we must also ensure that our mobile phone is covered by a corporate security policy. And nowadays the network providers also providing such security policies to prevent such fraudulent methods. Ensure one person is responsible for keeping tabs on who has what equipment, and that they update the central register. And this is the most difficult task. And usually mobile companies have to go through this, and they have to maintain a central register and manage the traffic. Legitimate subscribers who have their phones cloned will receive bills with charges for calls they didn't make. Sometimes these charges amount to several thousands of dollars in addition to the legitimate charges. So we need to be very careful. Typically, the service provider will assume the cost of those additional fraudulent calls. However, to keep the cloned phone from continuing to receive service, the service provider will terminate the legitimate phone subscription. The subscriber is then required to activate a new subscription with a different phone number requiring reprogramming of the phone, along with additional headaches that go along with phone number changes. Since we understand from this, once a mobile has been cloned, it's very difficult to remove it, and thus we need to make new connections and all. This all goes to a very long headache, and thus we must be careful enough to protect our mobile devices. And finally, we come to the conclusion. Presently, the cellular phone industry relies on common law and in-house countermeasures to address cellular phone fraud. Mobile phoning in our country is still in initial stages, so preventive steps should be taken by the network provider and the government to enact the legislation to prosecute crimes related to cellular phones. But this is not viewed as a priority. However, it is essential in nowadays that intended mobile crime legislation be comprehensive enough to incorporate cellular phone fraud, in particular cloning fraud as a special crime. The second fraudulent method I am going to talk about is called force pairing. Though it has many names in the internet, I prefer calling it as force pairing. So let's find out what this force pairing is. Force pairing means sending of unsolicited messages over Bluetooth to Bluetooth enabled devices such as mobile phones, PDAs or laptops, computers via OVX protocol. When was this method started? It originated from a Malaysian IT consultant named Isaac when he first posted a comment on a mobile phone forum, and thus it was also named as bluejacking from them. To get a brief idea of what this force pairing is, let me play a video which depicts the method, how the force pairing is done and what all damages it causes.
We live in remarkable times. Never before have we been so connected. Never before have we had the opportunity to share our ideas, thoughts and feelings with people around the world with such ease and speed. All thanks to this, the smartphone. Did you know that the smartphone now outsells the PC? 49% of smartphones shipped in 2011 were running Google Android, and Apple sold almost 70 million iOS devices in the first 3 months of 2012 alone. Android sees 850,000 devices activated every single day. By the end of 2011, over 35 billion mobile apps were downloaded.
These devices are many times more powerful than the computer that put man on the moon. They're no longer just phones. They're our guides, assistants, advisors, our best friends. Where's the nearest coffee shop?
200 meters left.
A compromised phone can leak information about you or your business, or send secret messages to premium numbers. This kind of abuse can have serious consequences. Smartphone compromise is a reality. Trend Micro estimate that by the end of 2012, we'll see almost 130,000 unique malicious apps for Android alone, most of them SMS fraud trojans. Cyber criminals follow the money. How does malware infect your phone? Mostly because of you. Criminals are experts in social engineering, fooling you into installing their malicious creations. This is Stan. He's a criminal. He's just uploaded his latest batch of apps. That's the most common way for malware to get on your device. You download it. This is Jane, a junior account manager on her lunch break. She's downloading a new game. It's one of Stan's apps. It will secretly send premium rate text messages without her knowledge. She'll lose about $150 this month. Stan just made some easy money, but the day's not over. He's on his way to infiltrate a company. Let's follow him. Stan's researching a potential victim. Social networks, professional networks, search engines, all combine to help him create a very credible attack. Stan sends his mark a message that appears to come from his own internal IT team, letting him know where to download the new corporate messaging app. Just a few clicks and the victim installs the malware. Like most other cybercrime, it's easy, simple and fast. The phone shows no signs of unusual activity, but it's already under the control of the criminal. Stan just got a text message that the malware has been successfully installed, and he now has remote control over the phone. He can do pretty much anything he wants, Right now he's instructing the phone to intercept every incoming call and every incoming SMS. Stan doesn't have to stop with just calls and texts. He wants to know what's happening in the boardroom. One more SMS, and he's remotely activating the mic and recording everything. Targeted and persistent attacks are a reality, and a mobile device is often the most unprotected. Everything that's said in this room is recorded and uploaded to a server where Stan or another criminal can download it. And worst of all, these people have no idea it's happening. Stan got hold of some important information today. Information he can sell on the criminal underground or even use himself. Corporate espionage and insider trading has never been so easy.
This kind of spyware is not science fiction, it's already a reality. This scenario is not a prediction, it's a warning. You can and should be taking the necessary steps to protect your mobile device. Always lock your device with a password. Stick to the official app distribution channels. Check the publisher and reputation of every app you download. And when you install an app, check the permissions it's asking for. And make sure that you invest in effective mobile security and management software.
These are some of the force pairing technologies used. The first one is the Bluetooth technology, vCard and OBEX protocol. And let me tell you some of the features of the force pairing technologies and why it is famous and why it is so much feasible in the hackers market. First one is short range wireless LAN. Connects numerous devices of different functions like telephones, notebooks, computers, digital cameras, etc. in personal area network. And this is one of the main features why hackers use this method for data theft. Since it connects various heterogeneous devices like mobile computers, digital cameras, etc., it is very feasible for them to carry out the attack so that they can get various informations from them. There are three areas where it is vulnerable: data and voice access points, cable replacements, and ad hoc networking. Ad hoc networking where the Bluetooth comes into play. And another one is it supports both point-to-point and multi-point, and it also uses very low power, and the chip used for this is also very cheap, and that's why it's very feasible in the hackers market. And to understand how it is done through Bluetooth, first we need to understand the architecture of Bluetooth, that is the Piconet. Piconet is nothing but various Bluetooth devices, maybe mobile phones, laptops or PDS, together in a short range within a network. The network formed by these devices are called ad hoc networks, and we call each member of the network as nodes. And one of the nodes acts as a master and another acts as a slave. And these networks consist of minimum of 8 nodes. And all communication happen between master and slave, and no direct communication between other nodes. And here master controls the clock and decides the time slot for the devices, and only when the master decides the slaves can communicate. In a Piconet there can be a maximum of 255 nodes, and the nodes which are in the network are called parked nodes. Master switches to low power state and parked node wait for the beacon from the master, and that's how they communicate. Let me show you a diagram to be clear how the Piconet works. As we can see, this is a Piconet, and here is the master and these are the slaves, and the master decides when the slaves need to communicate. And through this the Bluetooth communication takes place. So as we understand the basics of the force pairing technologies, now let's see how force pairing is done and what are the devices used and softwares used to do this. Hackers do force pairing using the mobile devices, personal computers, and these are the following software tools used to do force pairing. The first one is the Blue Spam. Blue Spam, as it is called, it searches for all discoverable Bluetooth devices and sends an anonymous spam file to them, and if they support OBEX protocol. By default, Even if it doesn't support OX, it sends a small text and it customizes the message that should be sent. You need a PAM with an SD or MMC card. Then we create a directory and put the file you'd like into this directory. Activities is log to PAM programs blue spam log.text. This is how it is done. And the meeting point, it checks for whether it is compatible with Pocket PC, Palm, Windows. Another one mail is the proximity mail. Then EasyJack, MobileJack, FreeJack. FreeJack is compatible to Java phones like Nokia and series. And this is the supports only such kinds of devices, that is Java enabled phones. And let's see where do this force pairing is used. Usually force pairing is done by the hackers to collect information. Information usually resides where there are people, and people will be in the places where, like the busy shopping center, Starbucks, train stations, high street, the train, bus, cinema, cafe, restaurant, pub, mobile phone shop, electronic shop, advertisement, marketing company, etc. And nowadays malls, shopping centers are all enabled with wireless technologies, and people use Bluetooth and wireless to communicate, and thus hackers take this as an advantage to do this attack. This is a statistics of where the force pairing occurs maximum. As we can see, the force pairing occurs maximum in stores and shopping malls, and next comes the public transportation. As we can see the histograms, we can see that the large histogram lies in the stores and shopping mall where the density of people is more, and as the density of people is more, and also the mobile devices will also be more, and it will be more vulnerable to these kinds of attacks. This is some of the code of ethics that must be followed, but I am telling this for the hackers who use this technology to steal the information from the people. These are some of the ethics must be followed. Do not hack any devices. Do not send any abusive messages. Don't threaten anyone. Don't put your personal information in a bluejack message. Don't reveal yourself to the victim. Do disable Bluetooth if you don't want to be bluejacked. These are some of the ethics which must be followed, by which the hackers also prevent the force pairing, and also the users can also prevent their phone from being bluejacked. And how to prevent force pairing? This is one of the important slides. You can prevent force pairing by many simple methods that we usually neglect in our daily life. Usually we keep turned on Bluetooth for almost every time, and thus our phone becomes vulnerable to such kinds of attacks. You can prevent force pairing by turning off our Bluetooth devices in certain public areas, such as in cinema, theaters, malls, etc., where sometimes we don't even require, and we just keep turned on, and thus it provides a pathway for the hackers to hack. And to set Bluetooth devices to hidden, invisible or non-discoverable mode from the menu. When we hide the Bluetooth devices, the sender cannot see the device, and we can refer our manufacturer's manual for disabling procedure. Usually it's a very shortcut method in use our smartphones, so we can easily disable it or make it invisible. The phone will function normal in other modes. And the main thing is we must neglect messages by refusing or deleting them. Such anonymous messages come from an admirer, a jokester, or someone sending a business card. Considering force pairing the same way you think about spam. And usually nowadays smartphones are more vulnerable to bluejacking because we usually download many apps in the Android market Windows Store, and these apps will contain encrypted messages which enable force pairing and which provide a way for the hacker to hack. And we can also use an E2X bag. An E2X bag is a bag which prevents all other signal from entering into our bag. It just blocks all the signal except our mobile signal, and thus it is one of the most sophisticated method to prevent force pairing. As I said earlier that this is one of the most feasible method for data theft. We must be very careful to prevent this, and if we follow these simple methods in this told in this slide, we can successfully prevent force pairing. And we must also be careful enough to lock our phone or using password protection for our memory cards, contacts, etc. We can prevent these kinds of attacks. The most important thing is today in the smartphone evolution, we download lots and lots of apps every day. Every day is wrong to tell. We download lots and lots of apps every minute. And while downloading apps, we must note the legitimate owner of the app. And if it is not authorized, we must not download it unless we see what all features it requires. And since the hackers provide an option to various options like network access, memory card access, contact access, we must be careful enough to note that we must not provide any details that affects our privacy. By this we can prevent force pairing, and even by chance in worst case if our phone is force paired, we can prevent some of the confidential information by leaking. And since this method is very feasible, in future it's a very interesting technology that researchers can research on, and students also can research on this topic. In future, I would like to say some of the things. It can act as a major sale tool. Since bluejacking not only used for sending unsolicited messages, it can also be used for sending advertisers, like sending emails. Like since in malls the size of piconet will be very large, this technology will provide a very efficient and costless way to send advertisement messages by the shop owners, etc. We can learn user preferences by placing options like more ads like this and less ads like this in each advertisement. Because of its low cost and power consumption, this technology has a great future ahead. I would like to conclude that these two methods which I talked about, the first one is the mobile cloning and the force pairing technology, is very much used by the hackers to steal information from other mobile devices and other devices, etc. So we must be careful enough to not to be vulnerable to such kind of attacks, and we must keep our mobiles safe so that, and because of these kinds of attacks there have been various crimes in today's world, and to protect this, the mobile companies, the government has to make strict legislation on the network bandwidth and various security policies so that these kinds of frauds can be avoided. And I would also like to say, because of these methods, many people have been prone to danger. My main aim through this presentation was to create awareness against such methods and the measures to prevent them. And I hope everybody who has viewed this video have understood about these two methods and will take necessary steps to prevent their data from being stolen. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please feel free to comment. Thank you very much, and bye.